So right now let's get started with chain of thoughts, also called as CoT. So basically chain of thought aims at breaking a very complex task into multiple steps and making the LLM work on these subtasks rather than a very complex single task. So eventually, as I've already explained in previous videos, LLMs are not as smart as human beings, right? So eventually, if you give them a very hard task in just one go, they might not be able to perform well. But if you ask them to do it step by step, they might be able to do it. So in case of chain of thoughts can be implemented in multiple ways. The most popular one is using few shot learning. So if you look into this particular example, here what we will be doing in case of few shot learning is that in a prompt, we'll be giving it some strategies to follow. Basically, if I give you a question, how you should answer it. And eventually we'll ask it to answer in the same manner. And eventually we'll see that the LLM would be following the same approach most of the times. So let's get started. So in this particular prompt, just see that question was, when was the last FIFA World Cup held? Answer. So basically this is a training data that I'm providing in the prompt itself. So is follow-up needed? Yes. Follow-up, which country hosted the last FIFA World Cup? Intermediate answer is FIFA World Cup was hosted by Qatar. Who won the last FIFA World Cup? Intermediate answer was won by Argentina. So eventually, what I'm trying to build up is I'm trying to build up a chain of steps. Like once you get a question, how you should approach it. You shouldn't be going directly to the answer. You should go through some follow-up questions to gather more content and eventually give the final answer. So if you look into the second question, who is considered the greatest basketball player of all time? Are follow-up questions required? Yes. The first follow-up question is how many NBA championship has the greatest basketball player won? Intermediate answer is the greatest basketball player is Michael Jordan won 6 NBA championship. Follow up, which team did Michael Jordan spend the majority of his career? Some answer. And then finally, Michael Jordan is considered the greatest basketball player. Now, in this particular approach, you saw how we can, using a few shot learning, we can implement chain of thoughts where we give it a question and let the LLM think in step by step approach. And we are eventually providing the steps also. Okay, these are the steps that you can follow. Now, after giving two examples, the third would be our actual question: who won the 2003 Cricket World Cup? So I'm expecting that even for this question also, the LLM would be following the above approach, asking for follow-up questions and then finally coming to an answer. Now, the second step, the second method by which you can implement chain of thoughts is like rather than providing examples, if you don't have those examples, you can go with zero shot learning. So, zero shot learning is basically you're asking the LLM to think step by step in the prompt itself rather than providing some examples to follow. So this can be a prompt. Think step by step and explain the steps on how to make tea. I think this is very baseline. This is something that I explained in a previous video also. So basically, for implementing chain of thoughts, you can either go with few shot learning or zero shot learning or break the task at your end. So this is very cumbersome. Like you're engaging in a conversation and providing the subtask that should be divided by the LM. You providing it the subtask, and then eventually you're driving the conversation. So in that case, it might become a little cumbersome.